2:47 a.m. The penthouse was silent except for one sound, the ticking of the clock. Ezra Castellano stood in complete darkness, backlit only by the glow of Chicago's skyline bleeding through floor-to-ceiling windows. His jaw was clenched so tight a muscle twitched beneath his skin. In his hand was a glass of whiskey, untouched, cold. His eyes never left the elevator doors at the far end of the hall. She was late. Again. The elevator pinged. The doors slid open and Hazel Bennett stepped out like she'd just returned from a life he was never invited to. Her coat was half-buttoned. Her hair was wild from the wind. She carried her heels in one hand because her bare feet couldn't handle another second in those shoes. Her cheeks were flushed from cold or from something else. He couldn't tell yet, but he would. She froze when she saw him. "Crap," she whispered. He stepped out of the shadows slowly. One step, two. His voice dropped lower than she'd ever heard it, and it made her breath catch. "Is this an hour to come home?" Her eyes went wide. "Why are you standing there like a horror movie villain? You scared me." "I wasn't hiding," he said, moving closer. "I was waiting." "You were waiting for me?" She sounded confused, surprised, like the idea that he would wait for her was something impossible. "I asked you a question." His eyes moved over her face, down to her neck, searching for answers she hadn't given him yet. "Do you call this an hour to walk into my house?" "My shift ended early." She said it defensively, her wall already going up. "I was out with friends. I have a life outside this penthouse, you know." He took another slow step. She instinctively stepped back until her shoulder met the cold elevator frame. "Which friends?" "Mason Reed." She hesitated for half a second too long. His jaw clenched so hard she could see it from where she stood. Unbelievable. "We work together sometimes. He comes by the kitchen, we talk. It's called being social." At 3:00 a.m., his voice dropped even sharper. "Barefoot." "My feet hurt. High heels exist, you know. I was dancing. We went dancing." He moved closer. So close now she couldn't back away anymore. The elevator was already behind her. He was in front of her. She was trapped between cold metal and warm intensity. "Did he touch you?" he asked quietly. She gasped. "I'm sorry, what?" "Mason, did he put his hands on you?" "That is none of your business," she shot back, anger flashing in her eyes now. "You signed my paycheck, you don't own my nights." He stepped closer, too close, her breath stilled. "You live in my house," he said, voice barely controlled. "Under my protection. And when you walk in at this hour, alone, exhausted, not answering your phone, yes, I care who you were with." She didn't expect that answer, not from him. "You care," she said softly. He swallowed hard. "I care about security, that's all." But something flickered in his eyes. Hurt, frustration, jealousy. He lifted a thumb to her lip. "You missed some lipstick." Her breath stopped completely. "It's mine," she whispered, "not anyone else's." His thumb lingered a second too long. Then he stepped back like he'd burned himself. "Go to bed, Ivy. Wait, Hazel." "No more interrogation," she said quietly. "We'll talk in the morning. I don't want more rules." "Then stop making me worry." She looked at him then, really looked at him, and she saw something in his expression that made her heart tumble hard in her chest, something he couldn't hide even though he was trying desperately to. "You were worried," she whispered. He didn't answer, he didn't need to, it was written all over his face, tired, tense, relieved now that she was in front of him. "Good night," he said softly. "Good night, Ezra," she said, letting his name linger in the air between them. And right there in that hallway at almost 3 in the morning, something shifted, something neither of them could take back. If you're watching from somewhere beautiful, drop where you're watching from in the comments. I want to see where this story is reaching. Let's go. The next morning, Hazel woke with a knot in her stomach. The memory of Ezra waiting in the dark replayed in her mind over and over, his voice, his stare, the way he said, "You scared me." She tried not to analyze it. She failed completely. Downstairs in the kitchen, she prepared coffee with trembling hands. The elevator dinged and she froze. Ezra stepped in wearing a crisp white shirt, sleeves rolled to his elbows, hair pushed back from a fresh shower. He looked calm, too calm, like he'd made a decision and he was sticking to it. "Morning," she said, handing him a mug. "Morning." Their fingers brushed when he took it. Both pretended not to react. Both failed miserably. "We should talk about last night," he said. "No," she said quickly. "I haven't had caffeine yet." He ignored that. "The rules stay." "Rules? I'm not 12. You can't come home at 3:00 a.m. without telling anyone. You don't own me." His eyes softened. "I'm not trying to. I'm trying to keep you safe." Before she could respond, the elevator dinged again. Mason Reed walked in like he owned the place. Hair half-tied, wearing jeans and a smirk. "Morning sunshine," he said to Hazel. Ezra's jaw flexed. "And morning to you too, boss," Mason added. "You look tense." "Leave." "No can do. I need Hazel for a sec." "No, you don't," Ezra said, stepping between them like Hazel was his to protect. And maybe she was. He wasn't entirely sure anymore. Mason bit into an apple loudly, watching this unfold like entertainment. "So, tonight, need a ride to?" "Mason," Ezra snapped. "Outside." Mason raised his hands, amused. "Fine, fine. I'll go before you combust." He winked at Hazel and slipped out, but not before Ezra's entire body went rigid. Ezra set his mug down too hard. It cracked against the marble countertop. "What was that?" Hazel asked, crossing her arms. "He doesn't know his place." He was being friendly. He was being Mason. He took a breath, stepped toward her, eyes locked on hers. "Hazel, I didn't sleep last night." Her heartbeat jumped. "Because of you," he continued quietly. "Because I didn't know where you were, because I kept imagining the worst, because—" He stopped. He was saying too much. She waited for him to finish. He didn't. "Come to my office after breakfast," he said instead. "We're not done." "Oh joy," she muttered. He almost smiled, almost. In his office, he wasn't behind his desk like usual. He was standing, hands in his pockets, tension heavy in his shoulders, like he'd been packing. "I overheard something," he said when she knocked and entered. "You and Mason." She groaned. "We were arguing about pastries." "I doubt that. Ezra, Mason and I are not a thing." "Are you sure he knows that?" She rolled her eyes. "Men don't flirt with me." And then he said it, before he could stop himself. "I do." Silence, dead silence. He froze, she froze. He looked away quickly. "That's not what I meant." "Yes, it was," she whispered. Their eyes met, and something shifted in the air between them. Something electric. "Tell me what you're hiding," he said quietly. She swallowed hard. "Tonight, I'll tell you everything tonight." He exhaled slowly, relief flickering across his face. "Good. Just don't make me wait too long." Her cheeks warmed. He stepped closer, too close, lifting her chin gently. "And don't come home that late again," he whispered. "I can't. I don't want to worry like that." She stared at him, stunned by the honesty in his voice. But later that afternoon, everything changed. She was in the guest room adjusting the clean duvet when her phone buzzed. She checked it. The bakery manager. "Reminder you're on for the night shift today, 6:00 p.m. close. We really need you." Her stomach tightened. The night shift, the one that paid a little extra, the one that helped her keep up with the interest, the one she never wanted Ezra to know about. She sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the message. If she went, she'd be out late again. Again not home. Again breaking his rules. Again making him worry. If she didn't go, she'd fall behind. And falling behind meant late fees. Late fees meant more fear. Another buzz. You're still coming, right? We're short-staffed tonight. She chewed her bottom lip. I'll tell him tomorrow, she thought, after my shift when I have more courage. She typed back, I'll be there. Then she shoved the phone away like it burned. If you're enjoying this story so far, please hit that subscribe button and like this video. It really helps me keep making stories like this for you. Let's keep the momentum going together. Around 5:00 p.m., Ezra was in his office waiting for the knock on his door. The knock that would come after breakfast like she promised. The knock that would finally give him answers about where she went, who she saw, why her life seemed to exist in two completely separate worlds. He checked the time. 5:12 p.m. He expected a knock soon. But the knock didn't come. At 6:15 p.m. he stepped out into the hallway. Hazel, he called. No answer. He checked the kitchen. Empty, the laundry room empty, her room empty. His chest tightened. He found a notepad on her desk. Blank. She'd almost left a note, almost told him, but then she didn't. His jaw clenched hard. He called her phone, straight to voicemail, again and again. Nothing. Heat rose in his chest. The same tight, suffocating feeling from last night. No, worse. Because this time she'd promised him. She'd looked him in the eye and promised to tell him everything tonight. He called Mason. The line picked up on the second ring. Boss, Mason answered a little too quickly. Where is she? Silence. Mason. She has a shift, Mason said quietly. At this hour. At the bakery. Ezra closed his eyes, his hands clenched into fists. She has a second job. She said she would tell you tonight. Tonight? His voice was dangerous now, a low rumble that made the air feel cold. And instead she walked out again without a word. She was scared, Mason said. Not of me, of needing you. That hit something sharp inside Ezra, something that made him stand up straight. Location, he said, now. Mason gave him the address, some bakery in Pilsen, some place where she had a whole other life he didn't know about. Stay where you are, Ezra added. Boss, maybe breathe first. You're very burning city energy right now. Ezra hung up. He grabbed his coat, private elevator, garage. The drive to Pilsen took 17 minutes, 17 minutes of pure rage mixed with pure fear. The bakery was warm and bright. Light spilled onto the sidewalk. Through the window he could see her. Hazel was in an apron, hair pulled back, refilling a pastry display. She looked tired. She looked beautiful. She looked like she was hiding something massive. At 9:06 p.m. the door chimed. She turned with a customer smile already on her face. It died instantly when she saw him. Black coat, dark eyes, the kind of expression that made her understand immediately that her world was about to change. She whispered, "Oh no, no, no." He walked toward the counter slowly, each step deliberate. He didn't look at the menu, didn't look around, only at her. Hazel, he said quietly. She gripped the edge of the counter so hard her knuckles went white. Hi, she managed. You're working. Yes. You left without telling me. Her cheeks burned. You were on a call, I didn't want to interrupt. I was going to tell you tomorrow. I waited, he said simply. She blinked. For what? He stared at her like she couldn't be serious. For you. You said we'd talk tonight, but instead of knocking on my office door, you slipped out of my house and came here. Again. Her throat tightened. I had a shift. You're exhausted, he said. You take care of my home all day and then come here at night. When do you rest? When I can, she muttered. That's not an answer, it's an excuse. His voice was sharp now, cutting through the warmth of the bakery like winter. You're working yourself into the ground. Her anger flared. I'm trying to pay my bills, that's all. You could have told me. I didn't want you to see me like this, she snapped. Flour on her face, smelling like sugar, working 2 jobs because I can't breathe otherwise." He stepped closer. His voice dropped to something almost gentle. "I see you every day, Hazel, and not once have I thought less of you." A customer called from the kitchen. Orders. A line started forming at the counter, but neither of them moved. "I really have to finish my shift," she said, voice small. He held her gaze for a long second. Then he said the thing that made her understand he meant it. "I'll wait." "You don't have to." "I will wait." She stared at him. He walked to an empty corner table, sat down, took off his coat, and simply stayed. No phone, no impatience. Just a man in an expensive black coat sitting in a tiny bakery like she was the only thing on his entire schedule. Every time she glanced up between customers, he was there, watching her, not in a controlling way, in a way that said, "I'm not leaving you alone in this." By the time the last customer left and the lights dimmed, she was shaking. She removed her apron with trembling hands, stepped outside into the cold night air, and he was by the door, hands in his coat pockets, still there, still waiting. "You didn't have to wait out here," she said. "I did, you knew I would." He stepped toward her slowly, giving her room to back away. She didn't. "You promised me the truth tonight," he said. Her stomach twisted. "I know." "So tell me, why are you working this hard? Why hide it from me?" She looked away. "Because it's embarrassing." "Embarrassing?" He took another step. "You work 2 jobs, you take care of an entire penthouse, you come home exhausted. What part of that is embarrassing?" "All of it," she whispered. His brow tightened. "Hazel, look at me." She forced herself to raise her eyes. "Nothing about you is embarrassing," he said. "Nothing." Her throat tightened. "You don't know everything." "Then tell me everything." The cold night pressed around them, but underneath it was something warm. "My life before the penthouse," she said, voice barely above a whisper. "It wasn't easy." His jaw flexed. "What happened?" "Not what, just bills, mistakes, one emergency after another. I fell behind, then more behind, and I've been clawing my way back ever since." Her voice shook. "The debt was small at first, then the interest grew, and then I was stuck. If I miss even one payment," she trailed off. "It scares me." Those words seemed to hit him physically. "You've been dealing with this alone," he said. She nodded. "For months," he continued. She nodded again. He closed his eyes briefly, like steadying himself. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because you're my boss. Because you're Ezra Castellano. Because you have real problems, not whatever this is. I didn't want you to think I was weak or irresponsible or that I needed saving." He took a slow step toward her. "You are not weak, you don't need saving, but you shouldn't drown alone." Her eyes filled. "There are things you don't understand," she whispered. "I'm scared if I let someone help, everything will fall apart." His voice dropped. "Nothing is going to fall apart." "How do you know?" "Because I won't let it." She took a step back, overwhelmed. "This isn't your problem." He followed her, just one step. "It became my problem the moment I realized I hadn't slept because of you." Her chest tightened painfully. He reached out, hesitating just long enough for her to pull away. She didn't. His fingers brushed her cheek. "I care about you," he said, voice low, "more than I should." Her breath hitched. "I don't want you to be afraid. Not of debt, not of long nights, not of walking home alone, not of anything." She looked down at her hands. They were shaking. "You can't fix everything for me," she said. "I'm not trying to fix everything. I'm trying to understand. Let me understand." He took her hand slowly. She didn't pull away. Their fingers intertwined, warm against the cold night. And then she told him, not loudly, not dramatically, just honestly. She told him about the hospital bill that started the spiral, the overdue rent, the high-interest loan she took because she had no choice, the second job, the exhaustion, the fear, the humiliation, the feeling of never being enough. He didn't interrupt once. When she finished, she wiped her eyes. I didn't want you to see me like this, a mess, barely keeping it together. You want to know what I see? He asked softly. She held her breath. I see someone strong, someone who didn't give up, someone who works harder than anyone I've ever met. His thumb brushed her jaw. I see the woman I waited for at 3:00 a.m. because the thought of something happening to her made my chest feel like it would crack. She inhaled sharply. He was too close, too warm, too honest. Let me help you, he said. I don't want charity. It's not charity. Then what is it? His voice dropped to something intimate and impossibly gentle. It's care. Her eyes softened. He stepped closer, one step then another, until his forehead touched hers. Their breaths mingled in the cold air. Tell me something, he whispered. What? When you came home last night, did you wish I had kissed you? Her heart nearly stopped. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. Her silence told him everything. He brushed the side of her face with his knuckles, slow and reverent. I thought about it all night, about touching you, about pulling you close, about the look on your face when you said my name. Her knees weakened. Ezra. I'm trying to go slow, he said. I'm trying to do this right. She swallowed. Why? Because if I kiss you, he whispered, I won't want to stop. Her pulse pounded so hard it echoed in her ears. She closed her eyes, leaning into him. Then don't stop, she whispered before she even realized she'd said it. He inhaled sharply. His control slipped. His hand tightened in her hair. A car passed. A door slammed somewhere down the block. Reality snapped around them. He stepped back, just one step, but enough. Not here, he said softly. Not like this. Not while your hands are still shaking. She looked down. They were. Come on, he murmured, gentler now. Let me take you home. The car ride back to the penthouse was different from the drive there. The elevator doors opened, and suddenly they were alone in a metal box with too much tension to breathe properly. She looked straight ahead. He didn't. He looked at her quietly, unapologetically. Your hands, he said softly, they're still shaking. She swallowed. I'm just tired. No, this is not tired. His eyes were warm, dark, focused entirely on her. You're nervous. Maybe. Because of me. Definitely because of you. Something flickered in his expression, like her honesty hit him somewhere he couldn't defend. He breathed in slowly. You don't have to be afraid of me. I'm not afraid, she said quickly. I'm overwhelmed. He stepped closer, not enough to touch, enough to feel. I'm overwhelmed too, every time you walk into a room. The elevator dinged. She nearly jumped. When the doors opened, the penthouse was dark, just soft pools of light glowing from the hallway lamps. He didn't lead her to the kitchen, or the living room, or his office. He led her upstairs. She followed without a word. Her heartbeat was wild. His footsteps were steady. At the top of the stairs, he stopped, turned to her, looked at her like she was the only thing he'd been trying not to want and failing miserably. Before we go any further, he said quietly, I need to say something. She held her breath. I don't want you confused about my intentions. Not for a second. Hear me clearly. He stepped closer, slow, deliberate, overwhelming in the gentlest way. I'm not drawn to you because you work for me, or because you live here, or because I feel responsible for you. Her pulse hammered. I'm drawn to you because you are the one person who has made this house feel less empty. Because you look at me like I'm a man, not a name. Because every night, whether you come home at 10:00 or 3:00 in the morning, I wait. Her eyes stung. I wait because I worry, and because I care more than I should. She took one step closer. The control fractured. You're making this very difficult, he murmured. And you're making it very confusing, she said, lifting her chin. How? You say you want me, but you keep stepping back. He stared at her for a long second. Then he took her hand, not gently, not roughly, like a man who had reached the end of his patience with himself. He pulled her closer, close enough to feel his breath, close enough her heart stumbled. "Because once I start with you," he whispered, "I won't want to stop." Silence hung between them, thick and hot. She looked at his mouth. He saw it. His voice dropped to a whisper that felt like a touch. "Tell me you don't want this, Hazel." She didn't answer. "Tell me to stop." She didn't. His forehead touched hers. "Hazel." Her hand slid up his chest, fingers curling into his shirt. "Don't stop." That was all it took. His restraint snapped. He kissed her, not cautiously, not hesitantly. He kissed her like he had been holding himself back for months. His hand slid to her jaw, pulling her closer, angling her face exactly where he wanted it. Her fingers gripped the fabric over his heart, holding on as the world tilted. The kiss was slow at first, warm, deep, savoring her like he'd been starving. Then she kissed him back, fully, hungrily, like she had been waiting just as long. A sound left his chest, low, impossible to hide. His other hand slid to the small of her back, pulling her flush against him. She gasped softly into his mouth. He swallowed the sound. When they finally parted, both breathing unevenly, he rested his forehead against hers again. "I knew it," he whispered. "I knew one kiss wouldn't be enough." Her lips trembled. "Then kiss me again." He did, this one deeper, slower, almost reverent, like he wanted to memorize the shape of her mouth, the way she sighed when his thumb brushed her cheek, the way her fingers traced his jaw like she wasn't sure he was real. When they separated again, she leaned into his touch, chest rising and falling too fast. His voice was barely a whisper. "I've wanted this for so long." Her eyes softened. "Me too." He closed his eyes briefly, like those two words unraveled him. "Hazel," he murmured, opening them again, "I need to know something." "What?" "If I pull you into my arms right now, if I hold you tonight, will you still be here in the morning?" Her heart dropped straight into her feet. "Yes," she whispered, "I'll be here." He let out a breath that sounded like relief, real relief. His hand cupped her cheek, thumb sweeping gently along her skin. "Then come here." She stepped forward. He wrapped his arms around her slowly, carefully, like she was something he cherished, not something he claimed. Her head rested against his chest. His hands slid up her back. Their breathing synced. She had never felt so safe. He had never felt so undone. After a long moment, she looked up at him. "What happens now?" He brushed a kiss to her forehead. "Now we stop pretending." Her cheeks warmed. "And tomorrow?" He smiled, soft, unguarded, the kind of smile he rarely let anyone see. "Tomorrow," he said, "I'm taking you on an actual date, dinner just us." Her breath caught. "A date?" "Yes, a real one." His fingers tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear. "And after dinner," she whispered without thinking. He laughed softly, low, warm, full of something intimate. "After dinner," he murmured, thumb brushing her bottom lip, "I plan to kiss you again, as many times as you let me." Her pulse jumped. And after that his eyes darkened, not with danger, with devotion. "After that," he said softly, "we figure out what it means for you to be mine and for me to be yours." She couldn't breathe. He leaned in, kissing her once more, soft, slow, promising. "Hazel," he whispered against her lips, "go get some sleep. Tomorrow I want you rested for me." She smiled, cheeks flushed. "Good night, Ezra." He kissed her forehead like it was something he had always wanted to do. "Good night, Hazel." She turned toward her room. He watched her until the door closed. And when she disappeared behind it, Ezra pressed a hand to his chest because he had just crossed the line he swore he never would. And he didn't regret a single second. Weeks later, on a quiet Sunday night, they were curled up on the couch. Hazel had her head on his chest. Ezra was stroking her hair in slow, gentle movements. "Are you happy?" he asked softly. She lifted her face to meet his eyes. "M.H.M.," she teased, pretending to think hard. "Dating a gorgeous, strong, intelligent man who cooks terribly but tries." He raised a brow. "I cook terribly, not badly." She laughed. "Yes, terribly." He tilted her chin with his finger, playful now. "Want to know something I do very well?" "What?" He kissed her, long, warm, full of love. When they separated, she whispered, "That you do very well." He smiled, almost shy. Then he said, "I want you to stay with me, here in this house, in this life." She smiled against his chest. "I'm already here, and I'm not going anywhere." He took a deep breath, like those words were the final piece he'd been waiting for. And then he fully relaxed. Right there on that couch, in that embrace on that night, two lives that once felt so distant finally became one. With affection, with softness, with love. And when she fell asleep on his chest, Ezra held her tighter and murmured, "You're my home." The next morning, before breakfast, before worries, Hazel found a note on the kitchen counter. Handwritten, his handwriting curved, beautiful, unexpectedly romantic. "Good morning, my girl. I just wanted you to wake up knowing that I love you. E." She smiled so wide she had to hold her heart. Because that day, and every day from then on, she knew she would never be alone again, and he would never live without her. If you've made it this far, you're incredible. Please hit that subscribe button and like this video. Drop a comment below telling me what you thought. Did Ezra go too far? Was she right to hide the debt? Let me know. I'll see you in the next one.